Even see, if you see the One Health committee in India, mostly these committee members are from Department of Biotechnology, Department of Agriculture. Probably, I think I didn't see a single one from Public Health. But not a single public health person is now a member of the Indian One Health community or One Health committee. I mean, so you understand that you are addressing a public health concerns and there is no public health person. So how we are conceptualizing it? Again, I say that it's a trade-off between public health and trade and commerce. So this pact or this agreement is primarily an agreement to protect the interest of trade and commerce, or to protect people from the adverse effect of trade and commerce. I repeat, this compact or this agreement is primarily to protect the interest, to protect people from the influence of trade and commerce or adversities of trade and commerce. So that is why it is still long way to go to achieve the public health means. And again, WHO should not be blamed here. WHO's mechanism is very plural and intergovernmental. In that way, WHO is not guiding anything. Rather, WHO is advised by several member states to make this. So,
thank you. Good evening all. I'm Pallavi Mukherjee from JanSwasthya Morcha, PAPH. We are a mass organization working on public health. Our organization was formed during the COVID years from deep concerns regarding public health. I would first like to thank Dr. Sarkar for stressing on the fact about global constitutionalism. The role of WTO, World Bank and UN you have explained very nicely. Thank you, sir. But I have a question. Like these agreements, the GATT agreement, WTO agreement, these were signed in our country, in India, in the early 90s. 20 years down the line, in 2010, our country made headlines about farmer suicide. And that continued for years. It was also, the farmer suicides were related to a lot of planning and also to genetically modified seed, etc., which Dr. Anupam Pal was also talking about. During the COVID years also, there has been a number of concerns. Like actually, when we work at the grassroots level, we see a lot of questions being raised from the public. Like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was accused in our country in 2012-2013 of unethically performing HPV vaccine trials. And then in a parliamentary committee report, they were actually thrown out of the country. They came back in COVID years with the bag of vaccines. And now with the recent developments, like in India, the fact about electoral bonds, which have surfaced before the national elections, we can see that Serum Institute gave the ruling party crores of money, and the vaccines got their emergency authorization license before the trials were complete. The trials were not completed. So all this raises a lot of questions regarding this pandemic agreement, where we are actually agreeing to be ready or prepared for a pandemic at all times. So in our health budget, are we going to lose the focus on more important issues like malnutrition? Our country has struck the headlines regarding poor performance in global hunger index, malnutrition, child wasting, and all this, whether all that is going to take a backseat because the pandemic agreement also requires mandatory budget allocation for pandemic preparedness. So this is a serious question. I just like to end with one example. Right now in our country, there's a discussion going on whether we should start BCG vaccination again, or tuberculosis vaccination should be given to the masses again. Now, India, the population of India, almost 100% vaccination against tuberculosis has already been achieved many years ago. Still, tuberculosis is in the discussion. One of the reasons is malnutrition again. Whether the pathogen is more important and whether we should tackle the pathogen in the form of vaccines or whether malnutrition is more important here. And lastly, I would like to end about the One Health approach. The European Union is pressing the governments of other countries to adopt laws and probably in these international agreements also about live animal markets. So, as a fish-loving Bengali, I would say, we depend on our nutrition for the local we depend on the local biodiversity. Whether that needs to be controlled by a transnational organization who doesn't have any institutional checks on it. That's actually raises a lot of questions.
Thank you, Paulami, thank you, Vijayadi. Very important interventions, and I really congratulate to both of you for posing rich perspectives with critical understanding or insights. So first, to address Paulami's question in brief, that see, what is the modus operandi, or what is the objective of a pandemic, of an international agreement? The objective, in response to your question, that understand influence of transnational actors, philanthro-capitalists, their objectives, their agendas, and then come to the typical, what you say about bunyadi, the fundamental issues of public health. So the point is that the objective should be to make government enable, to fight or resist the corporate interest in order to protect the interest, in order to protect the people, using public health as a means. So to make the governments enable to resist the corporate as well as market interest in order to protect people using public health as a means. Now, as you have rightly pointed out, there are not only animal markets, there are even biodiversity markets are also there. So, and these are all bigger structure of financialization. I am not getting into that, but my point is that it's a valid concern, and none of the articles of the treaty or the agreement is so far saying that this will make government empowered to fight against the corporate. This is a point, and unfortunately, I mean, we made this intervention very recently, but it is not much in the discourse, because this is a bit of I'm probably digressing the discussion, because mostly the pandemic treaty is a subject of academic interest for the academics in global north. Because in the global south, we need to deal with a lot of other issues. So that's why, except some civil society interventions, pandemic treaty is broadly not much of interest for the global south. So while we actually came up with this point, that does it make government empowered enough? So this is a problem I address. So I think this is very clear. So while we articulate with our various forms of public agitation, say JanSwasthya Morcha, please think of and even the negotiation activities with politicians, ministers and leaders. I hope so there are still some spaces to make them sensitize. That asks them that to send representatives in Geneva. I mean, they ask, sometime ask, or anyway, but let's not, I'm getting into personal things. But my point is that they should understand that where does government needs to stand. And in the global south also, it's not a very homogeneous concept right now. So here, even say Brazil, they are saying that no, we need big pharmas. We need big pharmaceutical companies. So it is not like that only all the countries are very much on same platform in the so-called global south. There are various differences. Coming back to the beyond, again, One Health. In the first two drafts of the treaty, it was not even mentioned that how the agreement of the treaty should address the primordial factors. You understand, Vijayadi, what I mean primordial. So primordial means actually that the basic determinants of health. In this sense, say forest. In this sense, the agricultural land. So what is the assumption is that the evolutionary biologists, they are saying that the conversion of forest into the agricultural land, the farmland, or I think Umabhuti Babu mentioned this in a bit different way. So these are actually posing great risk to public health, because that's a situation when wild or animals or wild extinct in that way, they come in contact with people. So chance of pathogen exchange, spill over, and that's a primordial determinant in this case. So the first two drafts even didn't mention of that. So one intervention came up in a form of perspective piece that One Health is not even addressing primordial determinants of health, and you are talking about One Health. So what does it mean? Then third draft, it somehow said that okay, all these assets need to be respected. Assets mean the natural assets. So it is very clear from this particular understanding that how it is looking at the concerns of the indigenous community, how it is respecting the concerns of indigenous community, and it is and no countries, including South Asian countries or the countries which are more respectfully in terms of in terms with the indigenous community. Again, I am saying that this is particularly actually happening to safeguard the interest of trade and commerce, so that it should not adversely affect people.
Yes.
And that is why actually we need our internal deliberation at the country level to make our government more informed.
Yes.
I don't know whether I don't think, I am not following India, especially in this case, for for some time. So I don't know that whether in India there was any committee, there was any governance level meeting happened so far on the pandemic agreement, that what should be India's position, what should be, how should we look at it. Rather, after this agreement will happen, and after 4 or 5 years, when all these tributaries or sub-tributaries will become tributaries and make an ocean, then we will come to know what is happening to us, and then we would start agitating.
Okay, thank you, Amitabha. I think Neeta wants